And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
And this week we're talking about The Craft. How are you, Meg? Speaking of witches.
Hey! What do they call them? The bitches of Eastwick?
Oh.
That's what they call them in there. I'm good, witch. How are you?
Good. Yeah, there's all sorts of witchy puns we could be making.
There is.
That's it for me.
Yeah, I don't have
I am back to school, and I love it. I love being back to school. And your kids are back to school, and you love it.
Woo!
Right?
I do love it. Yes. Christmas break is over.
And it's your birthday tomorrow.
It's my birthday tomorrow, so yay. So actually what I like to do on my birthday is obviously eat whatever I want, but I also, and the kids will be in school, so that's great. I'll be able to, and this is my new tradition, is that I sit and watch horror movies all day.
Oh,
so
that's such a great idea.
I started it like 2 years ago or something, and I was like, that's what I should be doing on my birthday, like eating Pop-Tarts and watching horror movies. So like last year I watched The Witch.
Oh,
I just realized how apropos. Isn't that what that's called?
Yeah,
Witch or The Witch?
Yep.
That was a good one. So yeah, that's what I don't know what I'm gonna watch tomorrow though. Any suggestions?
I mean, there's a lot there. You know what? Some new horror movies are on demand now, so you should just go for it or Redbox or whatever.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna do. The whole day I'm like, I'm gonna treat myself. It's my birthday. I'm gonna pay $4 to rent a movie. I don't care.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I think everyone should take that advice. If you can, treat yourself on your birthday. Because,
Yes.
You
know what?
It's the one day of the year.
Right.
Loud.
That's right.
So happy birthday early.
Thank you.
And I am already planning for your 40th coming up and where we're going to go and what we're going to see. So get ready.
Really?
This isn't for a few years, but
I'm excited. Okay. I'm excited.
So we're talking about The Craft today, and this movie came out in 1996. Do you remember seeing this movie?
I've never seen this movie. This is my first time watching it.
My jaw's on the
Yeah.
floor.
I thought maybe I'd mentioned that before. No, I guess
seen
not.
The Craft?
I've never seen The Craft.
What? Okay.
And when
I'm really curious to hear your thoughts then.
Yeah. Well, and it came out in 1986, so I was 12, so
I guess and it's rated R, which is crazy.
Oh, it's rated R.
They
I didn't notice
for
that.
a PG-13 to get a younger audience, but they wouldn't give it to them because it's dealing with witchcraft as teenagers.
God.
And it's like, get over it.
Yeah, that
Now
should not be
there's,
rated
freaking
R.
Charmed.
Yeah.
And,
Oh.
well, they're making Sabrina the Teenage
Yeah,
Witch.
it's gonna be all
over
dark.
it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think 12-year-old Meg should have seen it, but I would have liked it. But
I am fascinated by this fact.
I don't know why. Well, I think I know why I haven't seen it.
Tell us.
I have very little interest in like mysticism and Wicca and like all that stuff, and I guess that just like, so I think 12-year-old Meg or 14-year-old Meg would have liked it, but like I think as the years went on and it was at Blockbuster or something, I think I just was like, oh, I don't really like that Wiccan things, and
Okay.
you know.
Well, I was reading about the inspiration for this movie, and they wanted to do basically a teenage story about teenage girls, but then it also happens to include witchcraft and all the things that you deal with as a teenager. But what if you were a witch too?
Yeah.
So, a few facts about the movie. As I mentioned, it did come out in 1996. It only has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's not, people are split on this movie. It was directed by Andrew Fleming, and he has directed other sort of teen girl movies. And when asked why he relates to the genre or directing teen girls, Michelle Williams, who he directed, described him as a 15-year-old girl and described him as giddy and schoolgirlish, and says that, he just relates. This movie had a budget of $15 million. It made $55 million at the box office. They actually auditioned 85 actresses. They screen tested 85 actresses for the 4 roles. A couple of the actresses that were auditioned and did not get cast were Angelina Jolie and Alicia Silverstone, coming off of Clueless. But they did end up casting Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich, and they would again later appear together this year in 1996 in Scream.
Yeah, when I saw that, I didn't even know that. So when I saw that Skeet's name on the thing, I was like, oh my God!
Yeah, so they're together in this movie, and then Robin Tunney was cast as the lead, and she was just coming off of filming Empire Records. And she had a shaved head in that movie, so she had to wear a wig the whole time.
Oh.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And they wanted to be very accurate with their witchcraft, and so they had a real-life Wiccan named Pat Devon, who was an on-set advisor, and she wrote all the incantations, and they were real. And apparently some weird stuff happened while filming because they were using real incantations. So, and Fairuza Balk, I can't pronounce her name, but she also is a Wiccan in real life.
Oh, I guess that's not a stretch of the imagination.
No, I can see that.
Well,
she creeps me out in this movie.
Oh, yeah, she's creepy in this movie.
But if anybody remembers, she was the little girl in Return to Oz. Did you ever see that?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she was Dorothy Gale, and it's just ironic, that she grew up to be a witch, but,
Okay, so tell me about you seeing it.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
Oh,
and,
okay.
It was like, there's a new movie coming out, The Craft, and it's a horror movie, and I was just out of high school, so, I related to being in high school and feeling like girls treat each other badly and all of that. And I liked it. I too am not into all of the mysticism and witchcraft and all of that, but I remember a friend of mine for my birthday that year got me like all of these witchcraft candles, and they had incantations with them, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. And one of them was called Dragon's Blood, and when I burned it, it did smell like blood.
Ew!
And it's like,
what was it supposed to do?
Like summon the love of your life or something.
Did it work? It took a while.
Let's just say I shouldn't have kicked Chris Pratt out of the bed, but when he appeared, I didn't know who he was. No, it was all very strange.
Okay.
So
interesting.
And
very interesting.
I mean, I feel like this movie, I guess it has more of a cult following than, like, critical acclaim. Like, people love The Craft because it's four badass girls.
Right.
And they're not taking crap from anybody. I don't
know.
Oh, did you know that the girl who plays, is it Rachel or something? She is 30 years old and she's playing a high school girl.
Oh, Rochelle? Yeah. Because I started to, go down the IMDb hole while I was watching this, and I was like, yeah, I noticed that. I was like, whoa, that's kind of funny when they do that.
So just give us sort of an overview of your thoughts about the movie first before we go point by point, because I'm really curious.
Okay.
I've never seen it before.
Okay.
What does this movie from 1996 look like?
Okay. So I guess for me, I think what I thought it was going to be and what it was were two different things. I sort of thought that it was going to be more about girl power, and it ended up being more girls against girls, and so I was kind of like bummed, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like shit all over it because it sounds like it was kind of important to you at a time in your life.
I think I have not rewatched it again.
Oh, really?
And I too had this feeling, remembering I felt like girl power, but rewatching it now as an adult, I'm like, it's actually just pitting females against females.
Yeah.
And even these four friends get pitted against each other, and nothing really gets resolved.
Yeah. It was like what I wanted it to be was like, okay, so let's talk Skeet. So Skeet Ulrich, like and I'm just saying him, I don't know what his character's name is. I'm sure he's a lovely man, but I'm talking about his character. Chris Hooker. So Chris is a complete and utter asshole, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's mad because, what's Robin Tunney's name? Sarah. He's mad because Sarah wouldn't sleep with him right away. So he goes and spreads rumors about her to the whole school. And her response is that she's still in love with him.
I know.
So that was really unnerving. But as that was happening, I was like, oh my God, these women are all going to get together and murder the fuck out of this guy. That's what I thought was going to happen. So like that, and I know it's like, maybe it's weird to like be disappointed that didn't happen. I mean, because he did end up dying. but I wanted them to work together and like rid the world of this man.
I guess it is kind of funny though in Sweet Revenge that they did the love spell and he's basically making a fool of
That
himself.
was funny.
Funny.
That was funny. The love spell was good, but the only thing was I felt like she was earnest about wanting
I know
him. Like if she was like, let's do this and fuck with him.
Right. No, it wasn't.
So, I mean, but maybe, you know what? Maybe that's interesting though, because that is how a 16, 17-year-old girl would act. Yeah. You know, a guy might do something like that and she would be like, oh, I want to, I still like him.
Yeah.
So maybe that's more, interesting or based in reality. But I guess I'd say overall, I was kind of like meh about it because once it started out, I wanted it to go a certain way and it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, I can see that. How do you have been the new kid in school many times in your life because you moved around so much. Mm-hmm. Could you relate to that at all?
Yeah, so I was the new girl in school actually about the exact same time.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming to go into school and not know anyone. And so I definitely, whenever I see that in a movie, like for instance, the movie Inside Out, she's like she's new and like I like bawl during that movie, and I think a lot of it is about like being new and like feeling uncomfortable where you are and missing your friends and everything. So yeah, I mean, I can understand why she is seeking friendship like we all are. And I thought it was really cool that she had this suicide backstory. I really liked that. This idea that she has these superpower type things, I really like that. That was cool. So that's the thing. It's like this movie kind of started out with like that, the elements. Yeah, and then she meets these girls, and all these girls, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool how it was sort of like they started talking about this stuff like it was almost commonplace in a way. There wasn't a lot of like buildup of like, this is what we are and this is, this is weird and you don't believe us. It was all, they all sort of just believed each other. Like she believed them and sort of it kind of happened quickly, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, that's true. And they didn't have to try to explain it.
Yeah, it wasn't like, what? Witches aren't real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad we didn't have to go through that.
Right.
And I liked that Fairuza, what's Fairuza Balk's? Nancy. I like that Nancy sort of had this backstory of, like, living in poverty and domestic violence, and that Rochelle was dealing with racism. And then Neve Campbell's character had the burns, and then she had this whole thing. Like, I felt like
that was a really good setup.
Yeah, in the beginning of the movie, each character had this sort of vivid life and type of character where you wanted to see what was going to happen to them and you liked them. And then what happened to me is that the movie sort of fell apart because instead of the opposite, where maybe a movie starts out where somebody is flat and they turn and then over the course of the movie they turn into a more interesting character, it was like the opposite, where they were like these developed characters. Like even there's a part where Rochelle, like, she's done this horrible thing to Christine Taylor where she made her hair fall out, even though, I mean, we'll get into that, but she felt bad about it. Like there was guilt about it. And I thought that was such a cool sort of moment where she was like, oh, maybe I went too far or something. But then by the end of the movie, she's like this flat character. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, like you're mentioning, instead of being empowered and maybe using these powers for good or for, not necessarily for good, but for revenge and ridding the world of assholes.
Yeah.
They just become assholes.
Yes. It was such a, like, significant bummer. It was just like, oh, dang. And there's these sort of, like, clues that Nancy is the unhinged one or the one who wants to go too far. But you know what? Every girl in the world who wears black lipstick and wears goth clothes are painted in a bad light. And it's like, really? Isn't this movie for the girls with black lipstick? Like, we should have painted her in a better light. I don't know.
It's true. And I keep seeing that trope or that stock character of the goth girl, and it's never flattering.
No, and as a self-professed goth girl, I just wish that we could, just like anyone, you just want to see more diversity as far as how you're portraying them. And I just felt like the idea that she was dealing with domestic violence and poverty, that's really interesting and really like fuels who she is as a person. Wouldn't it be interesting to see that play out more than she gets power hungry? I guess, it's like, were they're getting punished because they're using their powers, or I don't understand what they were getting punished for.
I don't know. I don't know. But it's true. Speaking of these sort of stereotype characters, it's like a dumb jock kind of thing.
Right.
If you actually saw an athlete portrayed nuance, like he's
Yeah.
really good in school, or I don't know, something that he's dealing with something else. That's why I like Friday Night Lights.
I was literally just gonna say, I was literally just gonna say, here comes the Friday Night Lights spiel. And this episode is brought to you by Friday Night Lights.
I'm sorry. But,
no, I'll watch it someday.
But it's because it's not like, I'm a dumb jock.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some of those characters, but give us some, like you said, not flat characters, fleshed out, and lead them to places that are interesting. Mm-hmm. But everybody it was just bad by the end. Everybody was bad.
Yeah, it was like they had these characters they developed, these relationships they developed, and then they just decided to throw them in a mixer. And Neve Campbell, her character, was empathetic, struggling through her sort of beauty problems with her scars. It was so fascinating. And then she ended up just becoming such a...
like a self-centered bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't understand what was the point of that? Why did that happen? I don't know.
And not that this explains it all, but it was directed by a man, and this was written by a man. Peter Filardi wrote this.
Okay.
And wouldn't it be, this is why women, let's write some stories about ourselves and about others, and let's not pit each other against each other.
Yeah. I want to watch 4 teenage witches, use their powers all together.
Yeah, and kick ass.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought was going to happen. So, when I'm looking at my notes right now, I'm like, can I be friends with these girls? I want to be them. That's how I felt when I began to watch this movie,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just looking at my notes about the Christine Taylor character, what she said to Rochelle.
What did she say?
She called her names,
did
racist
she use
names.
The N-word?
Yes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well, one of them. And she, yeah, it was bad. So, and I wrote down, I'm glad to know that she wouldn't survive in this world anymore. Yeah. I don't think people are, I'm so naive, but I'd like to think that girls in high school are not using those kinds of terms or things like that. I feel like we've moved past that from 1996.
I hope so.
I don't know, but that could be just my whiteness showing through because I don't have to deal with it. So I wrote, why is Breckenmeyer in every movie just to be a drip?
Description. He's a drip.
Yeah. All right, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever played light as a feather, stiff as a board?
Yes. And it never worked.
It didn't work like it did in the movie? No. Oh,
did
dang.
Did you ever play it?
Yeah. I feel like there was never enough people. We were always like, if we just had one more person, this would work. Yeah.
It doesn't work. And have you ever played with a Ouija board? I know this is
not
the same.
I had a Ouija board.
I never did.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
I tried to summon the demon spirits.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Did it?
Yeah. And I haven't ever tried to summon anything or anybody or do any.
What about your dragon blood?
Well, I did burn that candle, but nothing happened. So.
All right. Well, although maybe we are witches and we don't even know it. Yeah. What if there's a plot for you? Yeah. You're a witch and you're causing things to happen and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You're sort of an absent-minded witch.
I like it.
Okay, let's pin that. Okay.
Were you gonna say?
No,
something?
no, go ahead.
Let's talk about other witch movies or witches in pop culture.
Okay.
You talked about watching The Witch last year, and I really like that one. And the goat, talking, that whole thing was really creepy AF.
Yeah.
And wasn't it sort of like you don't know if something's really going on or if this is in your mind kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
I love that whenever a movie's about that, where you don't know if it's like in somebody's mind or something's happening. Yeah, it was such a it was such a beautifully shot movie, but
just the whole tone.
Yeah, it was just chilling. Like I think of the end, and it was just like, oh, I have goosebumps now. Yeah. Okay, let me think. Witches.
So of course we did Witches of Eastwick, which we shared our opinions on.
I guess.
I never saw Practical Magic. Did you see
I did, but I don't really remember it very well. Like, I don't feel like I could even say what happens in it much. I mean, yeah.
There's the whole Harry Potter universe, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Bewitched, I used to watch that when I was a kid. Okay. You know. Witches. Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Wicked.
Oh, okay. I've never seen Wicked. Yeah,
so the backstory. And I talked about it on that episode already. But I think it's fascinating what is happening right now in the Me Too movement, and we've talked about this already too, but men calling it a witch hunt and thinking about the social context of what actually witch hunts were and how women have been literally burned at the stake.
And we're not even talking that long ago.
No.
I mean, yeah, 1690 seems like a long time ago, but it really isn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, in the spectrum of humanity, that's not that long ago. No. And women were, basically, if you did anything that was, you know, considered untoward by a bunch of boring-ass motherfuckers, you got burned at the stake. Yeah. They would definitely think we're witches.
Yeah. Oh, no. Like, we wouldn't be allowed to exist.
No.
Like, how crazy is that?
And then men turn it around and say they're
and the other, we could go on, but you know, that is fascinating to me.
Well, here's something interesting. Why am I not that interested in witches and Wiccan stuff and like everything we just listed? Nothing was like, well, you love Wicked, I guess.
Wicked. Well, because of the love story.
But like for me, like what? Maybe I just haven't seen anything yet where I felt like, you know, for instance, I love like Wonder Woman, and I guess in a way you could say that there's something like witchy about a woman who's, you know, because isn't that what it is? I mean, isn't a witch a woman who is using some sort of superpowers? Yeah. So maybe like I just haven't seen the perfect way of like translating that into really good horror. I don't know.
I'm excited for this Sabrina the Teenage Witch reboot because it's going to be darker, apparently.
Yeah.
And have, you know, not this... What was that? Who was that? Melissa Joan Hart?
Yeah.
I never watched that show.
No, me neither.
It just wasn't my thing or era. But I want to see a good portrayal of a witch, and not that there haven't been, but, you know, maybe in a different way. Like you said.
Yeah, I just feel like there hasn't been one where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, yeah.
I guess also the other thing is maybe deeper subconsciously it's about how witches have been portrayed and the connotation of being a witch, that it's something bad or you're going to get in trouble for it, and it's not necessarily something that you aspire to be. You know?
I know, but I feel like all those elements make me be like, like rebel witch. But I'm just sort of like, I guess there just hasn't been one particular witch that's made me like want to watch her or something. I don't know. Maybe you guys tweet us, talk to us on Instagram, let us know what witches you love that I'm forgetting. Maybe there's an amazing witch.
Maybe we should study witchcraft and become
Maybe
witches.
We should. Maybe that's where this is all leading.
Yeah. What else about this movie, Meg?
Let me see.
Coming at it with fresh, like, virgin eyes to this movie is fascinating to me. So tell me what else.
Well, I mean, the special effects were very dated, which I'm used to because, you know, we watch a lot of older movies, but it almost like bothered me more in this movie. I don't know why. Maybe because 96 doesn't seem that long ago, but it was a long time ago. So I guess I need to accept that 1996 was a long time ago.
It's over 20 years ago.
I mean, so I guess it is old.
Wow.
But you know, I mean, I like I said, I'm just coming from that perspective of My last note I wrote is, what is their motivation against her? I didn't understand. It was like she didn't want to be in their group anymore, so now they're going to murder her, even though before that they were... And, okay, so maybe one argument is they've been infused with this sort of bad spirit or something like that. Maybe that's what's happening.
They summoned man
Right.
or whatever.
But it's like, well, so they're being punished for, like, using the full extent of their powers?
I don't know.
Like, I just don't understand why they're being punished. Oh, and... Okay, someone explained to me why Nancy goes and makes out with Skeet. And she supposedly is punishing him, but she didn't start punishing him until she got caught by Sarah making out with him.
They had a thing. They had a backstory.
Right. So it's like, so they're all in love with this guy who's like not worth a hill of beans.
Yeah.
And they are freaking supernatural.
Yeah.
And they can like summon it, like Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, like... Yet they're worried about Skeet. I don't know. It's just like, ugh.
The other thing that, on my rewatch of this, that struck me is because Scream did come out just a little bit after this.
Mm-hmm.
Same year, but I feel like that is so above...
It's so much better.
Yeah, on quality
and meeting that sort of high school angst. And again, and having some... female characters in it, I mean, that at least aren't pitted against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess overall for me, it was just kind of like, when the movie started, I had high hopes, and as the movie continued, I was kind of like, oh. And then by the climax, I was just almost confused as to why these women were fighting with each other.
Yeah. I too, on my rewatch, I was super excited. I'm like, oh, this is on Netflix. I'm going to watch it. And it was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's just things, I mean, just as we grow older or we become more aware or times change, you just don't realize what the heck was happening or maybe what sort of negative effects it had.
And that's what's funny about, or fun or interesting about this experiment of Horror Rewind, because we're getting the opportunity to sort of go back into our minds of when we were that age and why did we like that movie at the time, and how we've changed since then, and you know how our outlook is different and what we need in a movie is different, and also being able to step outside of ourselves to think about diversity and all those things.
Yeah. So speaking of witches, I should mention Willow on Buffy is a witch. And, you know, that's
Is that Allison Hannigan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, I guess, a more interesting portrayal. But again,
Okay.
I'm not obsessed with witchcraft because of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess there's certain different types of, like, gothic girls.
Yeah.
You were kind of talking about that the other day. Not on the podcast, but you were saying, like, you know, there's certain types of fans, horror fans and sci-fi fans. And I think there are certain sort of gothic girls who are really into witchcraft, and I'm just not. That's just not my thing.
Yeah, just like some people are really into ghost hunting.
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
Going to haunted houses.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe is the same thing. Or, you know, Freddy Krueger specifically. Or
I saw a girl. Did you see that clip of that girl talking about having sex with a ghost?
no.
Because you were like, yeah. I mean, if that's your thing, like we. It's like she's like being interviewed for.
Was she serious?
Oh, she was dead, serious. No, she totally was, and she was being interviewed for, I think it was like, was it British or Australian TV? And she's just like talking about the experience of how it happened.
Oh boy.
So you know, I mean, the goth girls all around.
Yeah. To each your own. Just go. You go, girl, as your hat says.
Yeah, my hat says "You go, girl" right now.
It's time for our fast forward segment. And Meg, do you want to share with us what you're going to talk about?
Kelly started, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I wanted to look at this real quick because I just wanted to give you guys a little more information, but that's okay because Google is so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so while I was I was lucky enough to go on a little vacay to Hawaii. And while I was there and not on the beach, I watched every episode of Lore.
What is Lore on? Is it on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. So I'm looking at it came out just in October. So, and all the episodes, it's like 6 episodes. And it's narrated by the guy who does the podcast called Lore, which I've never listened to.
Oh.
But it's actually a TV show based on the pod. It's
Oh.
so I mean, chances are Horror Rewind's going to be a show.
So you're saying we have a show?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's a very popular podcast, and basically what they do on the podcast and then now on this TV show, it's sort of talks about a particular myth, and then sort of the real what would you call it, inspiration behind the myth.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So every episode deals with like a certain theme. And
did you have a favorite?
Oh, well, there's a werewolf one, which
cool.
was good. And everyone has like almost everyone has like a recognizable actor in it. The werewolf one had what's that guy? He's Adam Goldberg.
Okay.
And Robert Patrick is in an episode, and Colm Feore is in an episode, and so they all deal with this sort of one theme, and then the guy is narrating it, and then it's sort of a fusion of live action, animation, non-fiction content, and then sort of like this, so it's really cool. It's really, really cool. You feel like you learn stuff every episode. There's really a fascinating episode about lobotomies, and sort of, I mean, you wouldn't not even believe the sort of things they were doing to people back. I mean, we're just talking about the 1950s. And a lot of them, of course, and then they went into how women, even in the 1950s, could be put into a mental institution by her husband, and she had no say in it, and it was based on her just having a vibrant personality or like cheating on him or something. And so they would waste away in these, so you feel like you learn a lot. And then, there was one episode, oh my gosh, it was about this real life murder that happened in Ireland about the turn of the century, I believe, of the 20th century. And it was about how these people still believed that in fairies, and this man thought his wife had turned into a fairy, and so he ended up murdering her. But
oh my gosh.
So it's fascinating stuff. I encourage you guys to check out the TV show. And and the last one's about a doll. The last one's about a creepy doll, and it's got Kristen Von Stratton. Is that her name?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, from True Blood. So yeah, no, I totally recommend that you guys do that.
You were speaking of how recently women could be put into asylums and things. It reminds me of two things. First of all, have you read that article about female hysteria when they're saying women are hysterical?
Yes, that's what that episode was about too.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like their vaginas trembling around their
yeah.
body or something.
Yeah. And it's making them cray-cray.
And then the other thing was, so we just take for granted how recent certain things are. Mm-hmm. We were watching an episode of Vikings, which takes place in like the 1100s or 1300s or something. Or no, sorry, it takes place in the 700s.
Oh, God.
And like this kid drowned, and it's like, do CPR. Well, CPR wasn't invented until 1957.
I mean,
can you believe that?
My parents were like in middle school.
Mine too.
Wow.
1957. So I looked up, what did people used to do to try to resuscitate dead bodies?
Yeah. Your Google searches.
Yeah. Are you ready? Do you want to
Okay, yeah, what would they do?
They put a bellows filled with smoke up their anus and blow smoke up their ass.
I guess that's where that phrase comes from. Oh, wow.
Like, literally, and then also they did bloodletting.
Oh my gosh.
Because if you bleed somebody, they'll come back to life, right? Or they'll relieve their headache or whatever.
Oh yeah, bloodletting, yeah.
And then they did, they tried to warm the victim, which actually did work. And they would, massage their stomach or something. But
this is good to know. Also, as a writer, this is good to know because if I'm writing about something pre-1957, I can't have them giving them chest compressions.
They literally didn't invent it until 1957, and it didn't start getting used nationally or internationally until 1960.
Oh wow, that's like not that long ago.
Like we take it for granted that in 700 this boy
Yeah.
drowned. It's like, what are they doing?
Yeah, it's like just breathe
they're just crying. That
yeah,
he's
like
dead.
do
It's
something.
Like, bring him back to life.
Yeah.
Idiots. No,
Oh wow.
they had no idea until our lifetime. Like
You know,
our parents' lifetime.
I'm always romanticizing the past. Like, I want to, like, live in Victorian England and stuff sometimes. But it's like, the reality is, I'm so glad I live now and that modern medicine happens.
Oh,
you know?
I know.
I mean, my God. But, you know, I saw something, it was, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but they were saying that more women die from basically heart attacks and things like that because people are afraid to touch their boobs during CPR.
Oh my god!
It was crazy. It was like 3 times, like women die 3 times more in those situations where they like drop it in public.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, I don't know how to do chest compressions because I don't want to like, you know. I mean, that's as of today.
And the other thing about how more American women are dying post-childbirth because they're afraid of complaining about, like, is this normal? Like, I don't want to complain.
Yeah, yep,
because we're afraid that we're going to be...
Then it's like, oh, what a whiny... Yeah.
Or, you know, people aren't talking about it or learning about that post-birth stuff because, and, like, what is a problem? Because you don't want to be seen as difficult.
Well, and also, everything is glorified about pre-birth and during the birth, and then the post-birth stuff's like...
Yeah.
They don't talk to you about that in Lamaze class.
No.
All right, let's talk about something nice after all
Yeah,
that.
that's a lot. But I'm excited to watch Lore.
Oh, they also talk about people how they have the bells above the graves, and they show actual like prints of how they made them because they kept burying live people by accident.
Yeah. That is fascinating.
Yeah, so it's crazy. It's all crazy, but yeah, check out Lore. It's really just informative and interesting and well done. Just 6 right now.
Perfect.
So yeah,
it's a good bingeable over a weekend or something.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do our ratings.
Oh yeah.
On a scale of 0 to 10, and we have to rank it something witchcraft related from the craft. Do you have?
I want to say like frogs, but they don't have any frogs in the craft. How about changing hair?
Oh, clumps of hair.
Yeah, clumps of hair falling out of the racist head.
On a scale of 0 to 10, clumps of hair.
Yeah.
0 being you hated it, 10 being it's a perfect movie. How many clumps of hair do you give The Craft?
5.
I think that's fair, and you know it's like right along with Rotten Tomatoes on that 50% score. I also give it a 5.
Okay.
I think it had so much more potential than it lived up to, and it didn't live up to my memory of it.
And if a movie falls flat at the end, it's really hard to appreciate anything that came before it, you know?
How about, I haven't seen Lore, so I have to rank it on anticipation, but how many clumps of hair do you give Lore?
I'll give it an 8 because it was really informative and interesting, and it makes me want to listen to the podcast and watch more episodes.
That's awesome. My anticipation is a 9 because I love stuff like this, and I want to find out these facts of how all this stuff came about. So everybody have a wonderful week, and until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye!